Hello, everyone, and hello, everyone out in Zoom land. We are waiting for one more board member to come on so that we will have a quorum. And I see Dr. Powell Walker is coming in. Thank you. So we're having a special board meeting tonight, and I am going to call our meeting to order. Due to concerns for public health and safety, the Ferguson-Florissant School District Board of Education will use Zoom, a video conferencing tool, in lieu of a face-to-face meeting. Under provisions of the Public Meeting Law of the State of Missouri, the board must adopt a roll call vote, an agenda that includes the time, date, place, and tentative agenda for the meeting. A copy of the notice and agenda for this meeting was posted on Tuesday, December 22nd, 2020, and an amended notice was posted on Wednesday, December 23rd, 2020, at the Administration Center, 8855 Dunn Road in Hazelwood, Missouri, and on the district website. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda as posted?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Apologies. I was muted. Mrs. Hogshead,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Bush,
Aye.
Dr. Powell Walker,
Aye.
Dr. Thurman.
Aye. Thank you. I just want our viewing audience to know that Dr. Courtney Graves could not be on tonight, and also Scott Ebert. Our consent agenda. The administration presents the following consent agenda item for approval under our consent agenda. It's a personnel action. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Hogshead,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Bush,
Aye.
Dr. Powell Walker,
Aye.
Dr. Thurman.
Aye. Thank you. High school athletics. Dr. Bland will be doing the presentation.
Good evening, everyone, and happy holidays to all of you. This evening, I have asked Mr. Combis, the coordinator of athletics, and the 3 athletic directors to also join us at this time. All right, so I see you're all there? Yes, all right. So this evening, Misha has now determined that a virtual conditioning practice may be counted towards the 14-day conditioning practices. And when we met in November and discussed the 3 options, Misha had not approved this opportunity for students. So at this time, the administration recommends that high school students, athletes, begin virtual conditioning practices January 4th, 2021, as approved by MISHA, the Missouri High School Athletic Association. No coaches or student athletes will be permitted to participate in in-person practices at this time. This recommendation does not guarantee that in-person practices or competitions will begin in January. That decision will be made at a later date and will consider the COVID data at that time. The recommendation again is for the administration. The recommendation is that administration recommends to approve the virtual conditioning practices for our student athletes beginning January 4th, 2021.
May I have a motion to approve the virtual conditioning practices at
Motion.
this
So
time?
moved.
Second.
So moved.
Discussion.
I guess so. What would a conditioning consist of? What does that look like?
Yes, so Misha has outlined some very clear expectations for the virtual conditioning practices, and I'll share with you what some of those are. It must be supervised conditioning and practices by a school coach. The school must also have documentation that the practices are live. So it must be live interaction between the coach and students. The virtual conditioning would include a focus on techniques and also physical activity, such as examples, push-ups, so conditioning, getting ready for the season, various exercises, but it all would have to occur live before a coach with documentation. And Misha has also stated that the students may only practice one time each day. Because there's a requirement of 14 practices. And so so that would be a total of 14 days of engagement with student athletes and coaches.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Bland, for the return to in-person, is that at the January board meeting for our discussion?
Yes. And to that question, Dr. Martin, so if we were to start virtual conditioning practices on January 4th, and the decision to move forward with a January 18th athletic start, what that would do is, if we were to start on January 18th, we would start practicing on January 18th. And as I stated earlier, Misha requires 14 days of practices. However, if we start the virtual conditioning practices now, when we arrive at that January 18th date, that would allow teams to begin playing and competing sooner. But that again is all contingent upon the numbers in science.
Dr. Bland, so, and I'm just trying to kind of figure all of this out. So virtually, of course, means that students are logging in to some sort of link that has been given them by coaches they can work out or practice. So what I do wonder about is, do we have any students who might not have Wi-Fi? And I'm guessing we have been given hotspots out, so maybe we've covered that. But I'm just thinking about potential inequities that could be there for some athletes who just don't have one of the things that they need to be able to do that. So it's something, and what I'm thinking about is equipment. So for example, if we doing dribbling drills for basketball, if we have students who don't have a basketball, have we thought about a plan to support those students will be able to? So that's what I'm wondering about.
So I heard most of what you shared, Dr. Powell Walker, and Misha specifically states in their expectations that it is around conditioning and exercising.
Okay.
And so students should not be required to have specific equipment, because what Misha also outlines is it depends on each sport. Athletes are required to work with the equipment also for a certain amount of time, but that is separate from the 14 conditioning. So it's very specific around conditioning. So it would be the athletes engaged with exercising or the coach working on movements that does not require equipment. And so to your question regarding hotspots, that's something we will continue to work on, and our athletic directors have stayed connected with coaches, and they will continue to work with any athletes that don't have the resources. And as of right now, I can't give you a specific number, but I am not aware of any of our athletes right now who don't have access to a hotspot or a device. But we will definitely stay connected to our students and find out if they need any additional support.
And my assumption is that the conditioning sessions would be happening after their, I guess, wondering if all of that's going to be in sync so that we know that that's happening after the academic day.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We would not
Okay.
allow the athletics to disrupt our school day. So it would be very similar to the normal athletic schedule if we were in person.
Right, and I hope you know that I know that that's what's supposed to happen, but I'm just mentioning it because there can be those instances where people just kind of schedule things and people are like, whoa, you can't schedule that right now because students have this or that going on. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there.
Absolutely. We will make sure we note that. And those
Dr. Bland, sorry, another quick question, specifically around recruiting athletes to be able to play, given that we're now on winter break. And I assume we would still need physicals and all of that. Do we have a process in place to collect the physicals that are needed and the other sports requirements in order for our student athletes to be able to play? And then do coaches already have a list that's gone out to the community to say, hey, these are the sports we're going to be offering? Because we're on break now, so I would hate the first day of practice to be the first day we're communicating out.
So yes, to your questions, the first one around physicals. So we have not sent anything out regarding physicals. We wanted to be respectful of the decision that we would potentially start practicing on January 18th. So because we wanted to be respectful of that timeline, we have not sent anything out to parents. We did not want to mislead them. So now if this is in fact approved, one of the next steps is definitely to send information out to our athletes around the expectation for physicals. And it would be the responsibility of the athletes to complete their physicals. What was the other question you asked?
Just like general notifications
Yes.
for community to know what sports are being offered, when practice would start, all of those things.
Yeah, so Mr. Combis and myself and the athletic directors, we're just waiting to press go. So we have not sent anything out yet. We have planned to send information out. We wanted to, again, just make sure that we can move forward before we sent anything out to families.
Dr. Bland, I did have another question, and it's probably a little bit premature, but again, I just kind of want to put it out into the air so that it can be thought about if it's not already being discussed. Once students began to come in contact with each other, meaning Ferguson Florissant students and then students,
So I'm not aware if she knows she's frozen.
may not be able to hear me. Can you hear me, Adrian?
I can hear you. So the last I heard was once students come in contact with each other and then you.
Okay, and I'm sorry about that. So you know how when students start playing basketball against other teams or other sports, they begin to come in contact with students from other districts. And what I've seen happening across the region is that districts have had to have some sort of protocol around quarantining students when we learn that a student from another school has tested positive, or when one of our students, God forbid, of course, but if it were to happen. So I guess I just wonder if the nurses are also, I guess our lead nurse, if she's also involved in this conversation and beginning to think about what those protocols might look like for us, should that be the case.
Yes, so we completed a plan to play document for St. Louis County. And in that document, it identifies exactly what you're asking. What would be our protocol if there was a positive case? How would we respond? How would we communicate? So that is in our plan to play protocol that was submitted to submitted and approved by St. Louis County. And we did collaborate with our head nurse when we completed that document.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or clarification?
I
Any
know.
other? Hearing none, can you call for the vote, please?
Mrs. Hogshead, Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Bush,
Aye.
Dr. Powell Walker,
Aye.
Dr. Thurman.
Aye. I think we have Ms. Hogshead back.
Yes,
Yeah, I.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next agenda item is number 6, Policy 2036, the evaluation of students. And this was supposed to be for board action, but we pulled it and we wanted for board information only. And so that is a change to our agenda. And at this time, I think it's going to be Dr. Parker who's going to talk about why the change and what we're proposing.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, this will be for board action in January.
Good evening. Happy holidays as well. District staff, students, and families have worked together to address numerous obstacles encountered during virtual learning in the first semester of the 2020-2021 school year. However, as we approach the end of the semester, an unusually large number of students have Ds and Fs. Administration is especially concerned about how this impacts seniors. Administration met with FFNEA leadership to discuss this issue, and we have listened to the concerns of our students, staff, and families. Many FFSC students, like students across the country, are struggling in the virtual learning. In order to address this anomaly for this semester only, we are considering adjusting grade cutoffs to the following. A would be 80% and above. A B would be 60% to a 79.9. A C would be 40% to a 59.9. Anything below a 40 would be incomplete. Students with an incomplete would have an opportunity to complete the work to demonstrate mastery of the concepts and raise their grades. Teachers in grades 6 through 12 were surveyed on the above adjustments to seek their thoughts on the topic. They did not support the adjustment. Dr. Davis will be meeting with teachers in a focus group after winter break to develop a remedy for the large number of failing grades.
So I would just add a little bit to it. And I know, Leslie, I think you were going to say something. You want to go ahead and ask your question first?
Who did she say wasn't in agreement? Did she say the teachers?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we did a thought exchange with the teachers because we wanted to make sure their voices were at the table. I shared this with Dr. Thurman when we set this meeting up, and we had not done that yet, but I told her we would be to make sure we had teachers' voices at the table. We did that. Especially our high schools, we had about 70, at least 70 each at McClure and McClure North. We also had teachers from STEAM and Innovation to participate as well. We had about 55% of our teachers who were not in support of that grade adjustment for the first semester only. And so what we said, and I'll be sending out something to teachers tomorrow saying, we're going to hold off on this. I want to pull together a focus group of teachers from each of the high schools to have a conversation with them, because we do have an inordinate amount of students who are failing. We have some students who are thriving, but we have a significant number who aren't doing well. And we're trying to find some remedies, some ways of thinking about how do we support our students, especially our seniors, as they prepare for college and applying to college. It worries me. And this is a trend across the country, of course. We do a lot of research and reading of what other folks are doing, not just in Missouri, but around the country. And so what I'd like to do is have teachers from each of the high schools in particular, because this will largely impact our high schoolers and especially our seniors. And let's come up with, some remedies that we think can be helpful during this time. I've had emails from teachers. I've read all of those emails. And so we're going to ask each high school to have at least 2 teachers represented in this focus group. I'll do that right after we get back because I want to make sure I don't interrupt folks' breaks during the holiday. And we'll have some principals at the table as well and try to come away with some recommendation to the board in January of what is a good result.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
Have the teachers graded on the curve at all? To, like with some of the tests, if a lot of them aren't getting it, you know, maybe the grading on the curve would help?
Yeah, I think teachers have the autonomy in their classrooms. We have a grading scale that's in place, but teachers have been doing lots of things to support students. We know that we have some kiddos who aren't as engaged as others are. I would argue that teachers are doing some of that work now. We don't have, but what we have in place district-wide structurally is policy 2036 that has the traditional grading scale. So technically that's the one they have to follow. They do things to adjust to support students who are struggling. We have some kids who aren't engaged. And, you know, I think the people I worry about most, as we did last year when we went out in March, are our seniors and how they will fare as we have less time with them. And I really worry about how do we support them. So before we say, no, we're not gonna do anything, let's have a conversation about it. So we did the survey, teachers gave lots of feedback. We listened to the feedback. I'm gonna send something out tomorrow saying we're gonna hold off. I'm gonna pull folks together. Let's talk a little bit more and come up with some strategies of how we can support our students, not just the seniors, all of them,
Yeah.
but particularly our high school students.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very, very different time. And I know that there's some students who are struggling. They're struggling with this form of teaching, the virtual form. I know that I've had many calls from parents who are struggling and feeling that the kids are getting more work than usual. Parents are trying to help. They're struggling. We need a little grace right now for our teachers as well as for our kids. So I hope that we can come up with a compromise to help. And, you know, some kids are going to benefit who probably haven't been putting in the work. But for those who have been putting in the work and who have really been trying to do their best and they're still struggling, you know, I would really like to see, and especially like you said, our seniors, we have kids who have IEPs. We have students who are just hanging on. We have a lot of trauma going on right now. There's just so much going on that's affecting our kids. And I just feel like we need to have a little grace, give them a little grace. And we're only talking about one semester. We're not talking about something that we're going to be doing for the rest of for the entire year or, you know, so this is just for a short period of time. And so I would hope that our teachers would be open to trying to make some of those changes and adjustments for us, our students.
Dr. Thurman, if I may.
Sure.
So first, I would say I certainly appreciate the administration coming forward to the board with a high concern. I know I shared an article earlier with the board today about the number of D's and F's, as Dr. Davis pointed out. That is certainly a national concern and a growing issue. So I appreciate the effort to try and come to some resolution and identify how we can support our students. I will say I am concerned greatly about changing the grading scale if it was to be presented as it was today, for several reasons. I read the thought exchange, which I thought had great information and feedback. And I've also read a great deal of information that's on the lovely social media site called Facebook that people have been commenting on as well. And it sparked, I would say this topic has sparked more conversation that I've seen on social media than even our reentry plan. And so I do agree with you, Dr. Davis. We have to figure out a way to support our students to make sure that they're not failing. Particularly, I would say I would be interested to see the data for freshmen, because historically freshmen have a lot of more Fs than other students, and transitioning to a new grade level at this time, I imagine, is creating additional hardships.
Sure.
And I like the idea of an incomplete with standards-based grading. I think that is reasonable within a time frame. And not to get into the weeds, and certainly I'm not trying to say this is what we have to do, but I do want to offer, when we're thinking of the reentry plan for Dr. Parker and you're working with your team, to really explore the thought of how do we get our students who had significant Ds and Fs back in our building for a structured place to do the schoolwork. I'm not saying come have the teachers come teach there yet, but what I'm hearing and seeing is people are lacking that structure. We're paying bus drivers still, so we could still have kids coming to buildings. The numbers wouldn't be all of the kids, but just as a conversational piece to figure out, is there a way to get students who have significant Ds and Fs a structured place to come sit, even if it's with administrators in the cafeteria, to do their schoolwork all day long on their Zoom, because some of our kids just need that space to be able to come and do their work. Again, I'm not trying to say that's what we need to do. I'm just throwing it out as a conversational piece as you're exploring, because I do think there needs to be something. And also for me, I would be interested in seeing how long is the time frame for the incomplete, because at some point in time you have to change the incomplete to, unfortunately, an F. And also just exploring the option if it would be beneficial for some of our students to do a pass fail rather than an A, B, C, D, F as another option. I just think when you lower the grade down to 40% for a C, I do think, as the thought exchange pointed out, it does send quite the wrong message, in my opinion. I think the intention is extremely admirable, and what is at the heart of what we as a district believe in: equity and creating a space for all. I just get concerned when you change a grading scale as drastic as that, the message it sends to students. And honestly, the negative effect it has on perception from community members of we're lowering our academic rigor, and it could have a long lasting effect, longer than we think, even if it is just one semester. Perception's people's reality. And I do get concerned about people thinking we just lower the bar when our students are struggling, instead of saying we're going to support and make them still hold the same high expectations. And I want to be clear, I do not think the intention was for anyone to say to the board, we're trying to lower expectations. So I don't want that perception out there. But I do think there are some comments, whether it's a thought exchange or Facebook, that I've heard. And I do get gravely concerned when I did see the initial report about lowering it that much to a 40% to be a passing grade. But I do think, and I don't know where the district's at in terms of standard-based grading, but certainly to figure out something to support our students. And I appreciate us kind of not trying to pass something today and to go back to teachers. And clearly the thought exchange provided some feedback, and I'm glad we used the thought exchange since we invested in it. And certainly that's my 2 cents. I appreciate, at the end of the day, I appreciate the administration trying to come up with a resolution. That resolution, I just think, needs some additional work to make sure it is holding high expectations while still meeting the needs of where our students are at today. And as Dr. Paula Thurman said, grace is needed. And I do think our teachers are giving grace. And of course, there's some areas that we continue to grow in, but some of our students, I imagine if we dive in and find out why they're not being successful, it's what I've heard or seen is structure. They need a space to be the continual structure, to be a safe space. And so I would like us to figure out if there's a way to create that safe, structured space for some of our students who are struggling significantly at that. And with that, I will stop talking for today.
No, you won't. Dr. Powell Walker?
I wanted to say a few things.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Bush.
Yeah, Dr. Martin, thank you for that. I appreciate, what you just shared. And, when I saw that, when I look at this, this scale, it's a little alarming for me too. And partly because I just feel like our students, I understand they're struggling. But I also think that the struggle right now kind of prepares them for what's to come. I almost believe that if we lower it too far, that especially for our students who are preparing for the next level, if they're going to college, you could have a lot of virtual learning in a college environment. And I believe that what we're doing now is going to prepare them for that environment. But I do think that we do need a balance. We need to find some sort of even keel where they can, where they can do, they may not do exceptionally well as they would if they were in the classroom, but you're not getting left behind either. So, just with that, I just, want to keep that in mind. I watch my own kids struggle a lot. And, but, even in that, watching him struggle, and he's just a junior, there's still, I think that there's some learning there's just a life lesson, even in that struggle for them, if they going forward in life. You're going to encounter things in life that you can't allow to hold you back. You kind of got to push through. You got to push through as best as possible. But if there's a way for us to speak to some of those concerns, if the structure or the environment, and we can do something about that, that's great. Let's do that. But I don't want to lower that bar too low either. I think we do them a disservice if we make it too low for them. That's all I have to say.
And I just wanted to tag on a little bit here. Really agree with everything that Dr. Martin and Ms. Bush said. And I really appreciate Ms. Bush's use of the word balance, because that's what I was thinking about. And we do want our students to be held accountable. One of the things that I have heard educators say is we don't steal the struggle, right? Because kids learn lessons as Ms. Bush said, in the struggle. But I also, and I know this is not the easiest thing to do, but I also want to just acknowledge that we are not sure that we have been able to mirror what happens in the classroom. And so I know students have been impacted by that. And so grades are going to look different also because of that. There are just some kids who are going to do better in a face-to-face environment, as Dr. Martin brought up, with the structure and someone there to kind of hold them accountable. So I think about our students with special education needs. I think about our students with learning difficulties and attention and focus concerns and other challenges that make learning hard. And I mentioned that to just say that we don't want to lower the expectation too much, but we do also know that we haven't been able to mirror that as much as we've tried. There's just no way, and it's not anybody's fault, right? Because whoever thought that this is the way that it would be. So I just put that out there. It's like we're making this stew, and I'm just adding a little extra vegetable or something over in there to say maybe that's something that could be part of the conversation too. Because as much as we know teachers are trying, it's just different. Kids are at home. Kids who struggle with engagement in the classroom are having a very hard time of that at home, particularly if they have parents who work during the day. So for me, there are a lot of D's and F's, and we don't want that to be the case, particularly for our seniors. But I just want to note that we're not at 100%. So as Dr. Thurman has said, grace is needed. So I just wanted to throw that in. Leslie, do you have the tomato sauce to add to the stew?
Who's got the meat?
The cherry on top, right? No, I think you guys are all online. We're all thinking the same way. And so I just think we also need to remember, though, and what Dr. Martin said about structure is true, but today our positivity rate was 17.1. Right. And so their health is, in my opinion, the most important thing. Yes, they have to learn, but we have to keep them safe. So we have to put that in the equation also.
Yes, there's so much that
there's my tomato sauce.
Thank you. Yeah, there's so much to consider. Our teachers are working hard. They're doing their best. They're trying to encourage students every day. Our parents are the same way. they're struggling. There's just so much to consider. So I really appreciate you, Dr. Davis, and the administration for, accepting my request to kind of table this and for us to look into this and just have this as an informational item and to come back with some kind of plan that's going to be a good balance, as Ms. Bush said, for our students, for our teachers to be able to, to feel comfortable with. And I don't know what that plan's going to look like, but let's see what we can do. Dr. Parker, we really appreciate your input. So let's go back to the table and have discussions with our teachers, because I really want to hear what they have to say, in addition to what they've said on the thought exchange. I know this is kind of shocking. It was shocking to me to see that 40. I'd like to have that in college. Would have. Well, no. But anyway, I do understand that those numbers are a little shocking. But at this point, we are trying to do what's best for our kids, and that's the bottom line. So we will come back in January and we will have a plan. And is there anything else that you need to say, Dr. Davis or Dr. Parker?
No, I mean, I've heard everything that you all have said. We always listen to what teachers are saying. I'll say all the time, I may not agree, or I may, but I'll listen. And that's what we're doing. We're hearing feedback from various people, students in particular, who are struggling. We've never experienced COVID in the ways that we have, especially now the cases are so high. So we're in an unusual time, but I do believe it's important to bring everybody to the table and let's have a really thoughtful, in-depth conversation about what's a balance. And so we'll do that and come back to you in January.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
This is a quick one. I was just going to say, I hope Dr. Davis, the administrators, and everyone else, I hope you really do take off the rest of the break and get to relax and rejuvenate. And certainly we won't have any more special board meetings when the district's closed, but certainly we appreciate all of the time of everyone who came tonight who had to work. But for real, Dr. Davis, I hope you get a break and get some time away, and your team gets a break as well, because certainly this year has brought different stress in a different way. So I hope you all get some time away, and it'll be the 4th before you know it. You'll blink and you'll already be January 4th, and then it'll be 4th of July. And so please enjoy your break and holidays, and thank you for your whole team and you yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, Kevin, Dr. Martin, that was nice, except you kind of blew it at the end when you said in a blink it'll be the 4th of January. But actually, I agree with Dr. Martin, and not just for our teachers and our administrators, but for our parents as well, who are really trying to hold up and take care of home and work and the students. So please take the time to enjoy your family, enjoy the holiday, however you celebrate it. We want to say thank you. We hear you. We're concerned about you. We're concerned about each and every child. So again, thank you. This is, again, for information only. Hopefully we will come back in January with a plan that we can vote on. So to all of you, if there's no other discussion.
We have one more item, Dr. Thurman.
What? I mean, about this item.
I'm sorry.
I'm turning the page. About this item, I would like to go on to our next item, emergency paid sick leave. Oh, no. Yeah, information. Yes. Number 7, emergency paid sick leave act. So if you would, that's Dr. Boyd.
Good evening again, everybody. The Families First Coronavirus Response, otherwise known as FCCRA, as you know, is set to expire at the end of December. Originally, the FCCRA provided additional leave that was related to COVID, both in terms of people needing to quarantine, but also people that needed to take time off if there had been some changes with their child's either daycare situation or school situation. MSBA is recommending districts who wish to voluntarily leave, extend this leave request, that the board pass a resolution to that effect. And there's an outline of the protocol for this leave. And in short, the leave would extend past December 31st into the spring session. It would, though, not increase any particular leave for employees who have had to already take COVID-related leave under the FCCRA. So anyone that had to use that leave already, and if they used 10 days already, they would not be eligible for an additional 10 days. And any days that were taken under the FCCRA would be then taken off the 10 days that they would be eligible for in the springtime. The other thing about this is, since it is a resolution, this will be a change in our current leave policy that can be addressed at every board meeting. And we will be updating the board regarding any change in numbers. The other thing that this allows us to do is it allows us to be flexible with particular needs. However, the leave that was allowed for childcare and daycare closure will not be part of this resolution. And we recommend that the board adopt the resolution so that it will be effective January 1st.
Thank you, Dr. Boyd. May I have a motion to accept the request that the board approve a resolution to extend the FFCRA emergency paid sick leave days to employees?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
I know that the child care, the option for an individual to take leave because their child is ill, is that the way that works, Dr. Boyd? That will not be a part of this, right?
That is correct. That would just remain under our regular sick leave policy and FMLA policy.
But those individuals could still use sick days if they needed to?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Dr. Martin?
All the question?
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, please call for the vote.
Mrs. Hogshead,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Bush,
Aye.
Dr. Powell Walker,
Aye.
Dr. Thurman.
Aye.
Thank you.
At this time, I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Hogshead,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Bush,
Aye.
Dr. Powell Walker,
Aye.
Dr. Thurman.
Aye. Thank you so much, board. Thank you for coming in and sitting in on this special meeting. Thank you to our audience. Please, again, have a safe and healthy holiday. Take care and good night.
Happy
Good
holidays.
night. Merry Christmas.
Hi, everybody.